Hello my lovely crafty friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name's Claire from Craft Be Claire, and today we're going to start work on the DiScArDeD project, which is a GCSE Art Textiles project that I'm doing in collaboration with a very close friend of mine who is a teacher, Mrs. Baker. So today I'm going to start looking at the title page, and I've gathered together some DiScArDeD fabric scraps. I've got some biscuit packaging, an old map page, a book page, some old pattern pieces, a piece of packaging paper, and this lovely jute sack that I'm actually going to cut up. So to make my title page, I counted the letters. There's 9 letters in the word DiScArDeD. So I'm going to cut out 9 10 by 10 squares. So I'm going to do them one by one, and I'm going to use my ruler. This ruler is a really handy one because it's got an actual square corner. So I'm just going to start by lining up the corner and then lining up this edge, and I'm actually cutting it a little bit bigger than 10 because I'm going to cut each edge using pinking shears, and then I'm going to sew them together. So these are my paper pinking shears and these are my fabric pinking shears. If you see me use the paper ones on fabric, that's not so bad, but if you see me using my fabric ones on paper, please shout at me loudly. So as I said, I've drawn it slightly larger than 10 centimeters because I'm going to cut it just inside. So that's square one. I just want to cut these 2 edges. So for this first part, I'm just going to cut all 10 squares out of the different fabrics and materials that I've gathered. This is already 10 centimeters. I measured it, so we've got 2. Let's cut one out of fabric so you can see me do that one. And then I'll pause the video. So I'm going to choose a piece of the fabric that's got quite a nice pattern. So I'm going to use that bit. And it might seem quite wasteful to cut into the middle of the fabric, but I want that lovely image that's there. So I'm just going to draw one corner, and then I'm going to use this to line it up. I'm going to make it 10.5. So just lining it up with the half. Yep, it's lined up there. Yep, because as I did with the other one, I'm going to cut it out using the pinking shears, fabric ones, black handle. So I'm just going to cut on that line. And I'm actually going to cut it all the way across because that will just go in my scraps box. Cutting along that line again, just inside the line. And again, just inside the line. And this last one, just inside the line. Just going to straighten that one up. Okay, so there we've got 3 10 by 10. I'm going to pause the video, cut out the other 9, and then we'll come back and see where we go next. And we're back, and we have 9 squares of varying materials. Some are fabric, some are paper or card. what I'm going to do is these paper ones I'm going to stick onto some fleece. This is just garden fleece that I picked up from Aldi a while back, and it's great stuff for sticking fabrics onto, papers onto that you want to sew together. You could use the fusible fleece or whatever you want. This is just a cheap alternative. They're quite often reduced at this time of year because we're coming to the end of the garden season. So I'm just going to stick, just using Pritt Stick, I'm going to stick these papers onto this, and then I'm going to leave them to dry, and then I'm going to decide on my layout, and I'm going to sew them together using my machine or hand stitch. Haven't quite decided yet. So just get the glue. Which side of the map's more interesting? That side, I like the side with the river. So I'm just Pritt Sticking it on. These are great glue sticks. They're really cheap from the range, $1.99, and they're really wide, and they've got really wide coverage. If you've watched many of my other videos, you'll know that I use this glue quite a bit. So I'm just going to stick that one down. Okay. I'm just going to weight that down so it's flat. Which side do I want? Do I want the raised? Doesn't really matter. They're both quite interesting textures. So I'm just going to glue that one down. Okay, and the book page, you'll see I haven't cut it on the straight because I wanted it to not just be kind of a flat book page, but cut on the angle. This is just an old vintage book that I picked up that I use the pages out of quite a bit in my collaging and in my artwork. I'm really excited about this project and really looking forward to getting into it. The student guide that Miss Baker has produced is really quite wonderful. It's got some great ideas in it for the project and your sketchbook, and the sketchbook that I'm using. To look at my artists and to do some ideas and experimenting. So just sticking this down. And the last one, again, I've not cut it on the straight, I've cut it on an angle. Just gives it a little bit more kind of oomph. And just sticking that down. This will all just go in my fabrics box. So I'm just going to cut them. Okay, so I'm just going to use the varying things to weigh them down so they dry flat. This is an old book. My prompt box for my glue book. This is just a lid of an old biscuit tub, I think, or it might have even just been a storage tub. So weight that one down. That one can actually go on top of that one. And then this one, I'm just going to weight down using my hidden paper clips box. And I'm just going to leave those to dry, and then once they're dry, then I'm going to have a think about the layout that I want the page, and think about how I'm going to sew them together, whether I'm going to do them by hand. And you'll see I've actually chosen quite coordinating colours. So there's the pink in there, some blue, the natural, the green is in the map, and then the rest are quite natural colours, muted, earthy tones. Okay, I'll be back once they're dry. Okay, so I've got my 9 squares, And I need to decide on a layout of them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to almost patchwork them together. The sketchbook I'm using is a square sketchbook, and I have already marked out the 9 squares on the title page, so that is my plan. There's my student guide, just some extra squares that I cut, and my little plan of what I'm going to do. So that's an extra one. What I'm going to do is I want to put them wrong side to wrong side, because what I want to do is patchwork them so that when I open them up I can flatten the edges and kind of then hand sew over the top to give it a new seam. So let's just decide how we're going to lay out the page. I quite like that together. I'm going to try and mix up the fabrics with the papers. That's quite a lot of paper coming down that side. There we go, that kind of works, doesn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4 fabrics, and then we've got some papers as well. So I'm going to do 3 strips, and then I will sew the strips together. So I'm just going to clip them. And because I've cut them slightly bigger than 10 centimetres, when I come to sew them, I will do a 1/2 centimetre edging, but we'll do that probably in the morning. I'll clip these bits together now, and then I'll get the sewing machine out and start to sew them together. So you can see the idea, they will, and then I'll be able to flatten those out. Okay. Let's carry on. Wrong side to wrong side. So one of the reasons for sticking it onto the fleece is that when I start to sew it, it has got kind of a fabric base to the bottom of it, and it just will hold the stitch easier. I mean, it's not going to be easy sewing through card on the machine, but we're just going to do a basic running straight stitch. So hopefully when we get the machine out and we start to sew them together, the whole page will start to take form. I haven't done a dummy run. I'm literally experimenting as I go. This could be a complete disaster, but let's see how we do. So we're going to have those 3 strips, and then they will, once I've done those, I will then pin those together like that, and I will sew along the straight. So I'm going to leave those for now, get the sewing machine out, and we'll do those bits together. And we're back, and I changed my mind on putting them wrong side to wrong side, and I put them right side to right side and added a little bit of lace in this one. And we're just going to do a small seam, and you can see I've just got it to the edge of the foot, so it's about 1/2 centimetre seam. And we're just going to sew these together. I'm not worried too much about going back and forth, because I am going to what am I going to do? I am going to sew along the long length, so that will seal off anything. So just going to add this one in. Making sure it's straight. Again, lining it up with the edge of the foot. This one hasn't got any lace in, it's just the two pieces together. So I've just got the machine set on a basic straight stitch. Just to join the seams, because I may overstitch on the front. I'm not 100% sure just yet. So that's the strip sewn, and then what I want to do is I'm going to fold them flat like this. I'm going to have the seams going that way on this one, and then I fold them flat the other way, so we've got seams going both ways. I'm not too worried about these dangly threads, they'll just add a little bit to the discarded element. And I'm going to pin, bringing the threads through the front. I'm going to pin these right side to right side. I'm just going to pin across the join where the two seams line up, and again across the join where the two seams line up, and then I'm going to run that again very close to the edge of the foot. This is going to go a little bit slow because there is a seam underneath. As I said, not too fussed about the little tags that are hanging through. And then that one was this one, so we can go face to face again. Lining that up. Lining that up. what we now have is the bases for my discarded title page. So each of the squares will have a different letter placed on it. But what I am going to add all the way around the edge is, so this is my snippet roll, and it's just scraps of paper stuck down onto masking tape. So I'm going to use this to edge my title page sheet. So we want and you can do this on parcel tape, you can do it on strippy scraps of paper, or like I've done, I had some masking tape, so I just thought I'd use the masking tape to edge it. So I'm just going to sew that onto, I'm going to have that lined up like that. I'm just going to sew this down onto it. Helps if you don't stick it to the foot. This will also just help the whole thing sit flat when it's finished. Do the other edge. So you can see I'm tearing it slightly longer than the just tear that sticky bit off. Tearing it slightly longer than the edge of the patchwork. So what we have now is a square of discarded materials. You can see the book page, the fabric, the cardboard in the middle. It doesn't overly sit straight because obviously you've mixed materials, but that's okay. That all adds to the aesthetic of it. And then each square is going to have the letters of discarded. So I'm just going to use scraps of fabric, maybe some buttons. Let's just lay some buttons out, and I'm just going to slow stitch each letter in. I'll possibly use some stencils, some magazine letters. Just slow stitching through. I'll add some ribbons, maybe some more. So there's the S for discarded. And then I'm just going to build it up, and then we'll add it to the book. Okay, so I'm going to go off and do that. I'm going to leave you to create your title page, and we'll come back at the end and see what we've got. Thank you. And the final part of this video, and we're back, and you can see I've created each of the letters using varying techniques. So the first D is cut out of fabric, and then it's just glued on to the paper with some netting behind, and then I've used embroidery silks for running stitch and a few French knots. The I is just some bubble wrap that I had left over from a parcel that I've used alcohol pens, marker pens, permanent markers would work, to draw the I on the back, and then it's just stuck down with double-sided sticky tape. These are the buttons you saw me placing, and I've sewn them on with a piece of scrap lace. This is crocheted, so there is a pipe cleaner under there, and I've loop stitched round, then single crocheted, and then I've done single with a chain of 3, single, chain of 3, single, chain of 3, single, all the way round to create the C. Lollipop sticks that I've just stained with a little bit of tea, not too dark, just onto a scrap of fabric. This is from a magazine, so it's just a magazine harvest. This is an old letter. The windows that you get on envelopes are perfect for creating pockets, and I'll probably use more of those in my scrapbook with a discarded stamp. This is some carpet underlay. I've cut into a letter E, glued it down, and added just a ribbon bow. And this is just some scrap of it's like a textured wool. It's a bit like ribbon or wool, and I'm just going to finish that off while I have you with me. So I'm just going to grab my needle, because what I want to do is I want to just, at the moment it's just glued onto the paper at the back, but I just want to make sure it doesn't fall off halfway through the project. So I'm just going to thread my needle. This is where I need the stronger glasses. Come on, or a needle with the bigger hole. I do need a needle threader. Bear with, I've just lost the thread on the floor. There it is. Let's try again. Let's use, this was the needle I was using, so I know it goes through this hole. Right. I do need to get myself a needle threader because my eyesight is really poor. And yeah, I end up spending longer trying to thread the needle than I actually do completing the craft or the sewing project. So I'm just going to run a few loops over the top of this. So the thread I'm using, it's like it's like a waxed thread, and it's really quite sturdy. It's just one I've picked up in the scrap store. And it just, yeah, I'm guessing it comes from tapestry or quilting, because it's really strong thread. It's almost like fishing line. which is perfect for just doing jobs like this where you just want to fix things down. So I'm not going to completely sew it all down. I'm just going over some of, just creating like a little loop over the top that will just hold it down so that as we're using the scrapbook, things won't start falling out, because that really annoys me when I'm doing a project. I'm really looking forward to this project, as I said earlier on in the video. I think it's going to stretch me out of my comfort zone. I am a collage artist, although I do sew. And so this is going to teach me some really good new techniques. I'm looking forward to doing it. But it's also going to give me a project that I can see through from the beginning to end. And I really enjoyed that about Junk Journal July. As I said in one of my Junk Journal July videos, I really want to go back to college and do an art foundation degree. And I think this project, which is going to be going on for most of the year, will give me the courage and the work really to apply for that, potentially for next September. Definitely not doing anything this September. Yeah, and I have got another project. I did a project on circles, which I will do a bit of a walk through, but I've still not finished the final project, and that kind of needs to be rectified. So you can see I'm not going over and over and over. I'm just doing one loop through the paper. The glue's still a little bit wet. I've just used normal PVA to glue it down and into shape. And then, as you can see, I'm just sewing it on to make sure it stays firm. And then we will trim this up, stick it to my title page in my sketchbook, and then I will wait for instruction on the next few pages. I think there's a mood board and a mind map coming up, and then some colour theory. I'm just really looking forward to having like some specific guidance and working on a project in real time as well. So it'll be really interesting for me. So you can see the letters that I've sewn on, because you can see the back of the sewn. So I'll just put that to one side. So opening up my sketchbook, I'm going to keep that safe. I might create like a pocket or something for it on the cover. And then this page is just going to sit on the top of that. So what I'm going to do is I keep a sheet of acetate somewhere. Somewhere is my acetate. I don't know where it's gone. Okay, so maybe not. So what I'm actually going to do for this one is I'm going to open the book all the way up, and because I want to give a really good coverage of glue so that this page really sticks down. So here's my glue. So this is just a mix of clear PVA and medium, which is like it is a PVA, but it's like a strong PVA, and it gives a really good stick. I do have Mod Podge, but actually, do you know that this is like a fraction of the cost? I think it's like £4 for a huge tube of PVA, and if you don't mind it being a little bit shiny in the finish, then it's absolutely fine. I mean, Mod Podge is great and it does wonderful things when you're using napkins, but this works just as well for me. Wallpaper paste also works if you're doing napkins. It doesn't give you that shiny finish. I mean, it does what it's meant to do. It pastes. So just making sure I've got a good coverage of glue all over the page. I think what I'm going to have to do before I start is just take a little bit off of this edge, because this is the edge where the bind is. I'm going to try and do this without sticking it down. So I'm just using my pinking shears to take a little bit off that edge. And then just lining it up, making sure it's on the page, right up to the edge. Just going to press it down. Not too fussed about folds or creases. It all adds to the kind of discarded aesthetic. And it will hang out the edge of the book, but the whole point of the sketchbook is it is a journey. It's a representation of the journey, and it's not meant to be neat and perfect. It's my thoughts and journey. So just making sure that's really stuck down. Just giving it a really good stick down at the back. And you can see already it is hanging out the end of the page, but I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so what I am going to do is I'm going to close the book. I'm going to weight it down just to make sure everything sticks, and I'm going to leave that to dry overnight before I even think about trying to do the next page, because I just want that all completely stuck down. I find these things perfect for weighting work down. So thank you for watching. I look forward to being on this journey with you. Any questions, pop in the comments below, and I'll try and answer them. And yeah, let's do this project together. I'm really excited. Hope you are too. Let me know. So any questions you have, just pop them in the comments below and I'll try and answer them. And if I can't answer them, I'll reach out to my crafty friends and try and get an answer for you. So looking forward to doing this project with you. Well, let's do this. Let's get discarded.